welcome back to Uncle Fezzi's Body Shop of Bad Decisions, also known as Delco INEOS Upgraders. So, what do I got going on today? Well, the title of the video basically says the whole thing. Over-engineered jumper cables. So, quick backstory. Although none of my stories are quick, I figured this is an important part. Back in 1991, I worked at a body shop that specialized in the repair of heavy equipment, mostly dump trucks. And it wasn't necessarily repair, it was more like resurrection of shit boxes. Inevitably, anytime somebody dropped off one of their shitbox dump trucks, the fucking batteries were dead. Without fucking fail. Not only were the batteries dead, the batteries were completely shot. So, what did you have to do? Well, first of all, you had to yell at the people not to park in the middle of my fucking driveway and leave because, it blocked my entire driveway. I fucking hated that place. So, back in 1991, these did exist. This is a jump pack. And this is the answer to the problem that I don't have. I, made a problem here, right? They didn't have these. They did, but they were monstrous lead-acid batteries on a cart that you had to drag around, and they were really heavy, and it was just, we didn't have one. We did have a jumper. We did have, good battery chargers, right? Well, the problem with a good battery charger is if the batteries are completely shot, which 99 times out of 100, these batteries were totally shot, then the jump box or the battery charger was worthless as tits on a boar hog. It just wouldn't do it. But what would do it is a set of really good jumper cables. Believe it or not, my truck, my old Dakota, would jump start a triaxle. 24 volt, blah, 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 blah. It would jump start it. The guy that I worked for at the time had a set of really cool plug-in snap-on jumper cables. And if you know anything about electricity, electricity likes to flow through a wider cable. So these snap-on jumper cables have this massive cable in them. And these things were expensive. They were literally probably $300 back in 1992. I just looked up the price. They were, you can buy these still from Snap-on, and they're $300. You can also buy these from a company called Agile Off-Road for $300. What's so special about my jumper cables other than I'm special and I over-engineered them? I'm going to get rid of this piece of shit that doesn't work. That's why I'm not using this. Every time I go to use that jump box, the fucking thing is dead. So, the Snap-on jumper cables came with this plug. And it had these ends inside. Not for nothing, it was really cool. And I had it installed in every single one of my trucks. And truth be told, I didn't actually use them over the last 10 years because I used that jump box. That jump box is no good anymore. They were only good for 4 or 5 years and they just die. And then you got to buy a new one. The other thing is those lithium ion packs that you get, the little ones that are about this big, yeah, they are not worth a shit when the car is totally dead. They will not jump a completely dead battery. They'll blow up first. How do I know this? Well, I blew 2 of them up. So those things are dead to me. But my god-awful expensive Snap-on jumper cables are not dead to me. For multiple reasons. One is the new truck, my INEOS Grenadier, Quartermaster, comes with what is called a NATO plug on the back. Well, what's a NATO plug? Well, this is a NATO plug. It's a positive and negative, high amperage, high DC amp plug. You just plug it into the back of the truck, and voila, you have power to the back of your truck. I'm going to show that right now. So this here is the NATO plug on the back of the truck. This is the 500 amp switch, so you have to turn this one on and then this one on. But it doesn't work unless the ignition's on and the vehicle's in neutral or in gear. They do that because that is actually intended to be used for a supplemental winch, like a rear-facing winch, which you can install in the the hitch. Under the hood, these people really had they gave this a lot of thought. They have a monstrous jumping lug here for positive, and this is your negative, goes here. Under the hood here, it's typical modern vehicle. It really wasn't anywhere super convenient for me to mount that plug. And one of the other things I found out with my other truck was they get corroded. That thing can get some corrosion on it underneath the hood. Okay. So the problem is, and this is everything's always a problem, is this plug only works when the truck is running in gear, running and in gear. Well, if my truck is dead, then these jumper cables are completely worthless. They're just completely worthless because you can't jump start anything. You can't jump your own vehicle with these. So this plug over the years disintegrated. It's 30 plus years old, and God only knows what kind of plastic it is, but it ain't worth it. Disintegrated. So I went into Fusion and I went through all these different prototypes, and I designed a plug that goes into the NATO plug on this plug here, right? And that's all you really need. It's trust me, it works. I know how to use a multimeter, and it works. So this is the plug that I designed that goes to these. It goes to these. Now, why did I go through all this effort? Why didn't I just take these ends and attach them to this end of the plug, or this end of the jumper cables, be done with it, have a set of standard jumper cables? Because as you just saw, the INEOS actually has a pretty decent jumper lug on it, and it's kind of designed for that. You know, somebody had to put a lot of thought into it. The short answer is, when you're jumping another vehicle, especially a modern vehicle, first of all, they don't like to be jumped. That's what those jump boxes are for. If you fry a jump box, oh well. But if I fry the electronics in my $100,000 truck, I'm going to be pretty pissed. So the NATO plug on the back, while it is a pain in the ass because you have to be running it in gear or in neutral, and believe it or not, neutral's a gear. There's a safety involved. There's shunts, there's relays, there's all kinds of stuff that keep power from backfeeding from the other vehicle into your vehicle. So that's why I did this. That, and not for nothing, that's fucking cool. INEOS is pretty cool to begin with. Why not just keep the cool rolling? And that's my opinion. So yeah, I now have a set of over-engineered plug-in jumper cables. Hopefully, I never need this end. But if I need it, I have it. So just a quick, I printed it out of TPU, or I'm sorry, I printed this out of ASA. I printed this little ring out of TPU. It actually didn't take me too many iterations. It only took me like 3 iterations to get it to work right. This is screwed together. There's a hot nut cert in here. And I actually used a little bit of this E6000 on these pins. So there's pins here that go in there. Now, it goes like this. So that goes like that, that goes like that, that goes like that. Voila, there you go. And that's why this was printed out of printed out of ASA. This one actually was a failed print. These are This is printed in super duper draft mode. That's why that just came apart like that. I actually abused the shit out of this thing before I put it together, so these are trash anyway. So that's it. You know, Uncle Fezzi's over-engineered jumper cables for my INEOS Grenadier.